I mentioned the alumni segueing us into our guest speaker for tonight. Because it was back in 2007 that Nick Holzherr was joint team leader of what was then SIFE Aston. And it's no coincidence that that year Aston became our first team ever to recruit over a couple of hundred students. They came runners-up at our national competition, and they represented SIFE UK, as it was in those days, at a European event in Poland. And I like to think that some of that SIFE experience might have helped Nick in his later achievements, and we're going to spend a few minutes finding out. So please welcome Nick Holzherr, who's the founder of Whisk and was finalist in The Apprentice in the SIFE series.
Hi guys, I'm Nick Holzherr. I was, as Jim said, about 5 years ago I was involved in Enactus. Since then I've run my own businesses, and people come to me quite regularly and say, Nick, I'm not getting everything I need out of university to run my own business. How do I learn how to run my own business, and why did you do it? And actually, it's an honest answer, I say all the time, it's Enactus. I was a part of Enactus. It was what I did in this society that really made me A, believe, and B, gave me some of the skills I need to do it. So obviously when Jim came and asked me to come and speak, I was very honoured and delighted to come along and speak to you guys. So I guess I'm famous for being on the BBC Apprentice. Show of hands, how many people have seen the BBC Apprentice? Great, so most of you. So just to remind you where I failed, I'll show you a quick clip of that.
The Apprentice 2012. This is not about a job anymore. This is about me investing £250,000 into a business with one of you. What is your business idea, Nick?
It's an online platform that will revolutionise the online grocery market. It allows anybody to purchase ingredients for any recipe with a single click.
My online brain at the moment is ticking over already, so I'll be interested to hear how that's going to work.
It's not an essential, it's an irrelevance. It's irrelevant.
I think you're not the target market. I think the target market would say that it is actually a very useful tool.
I struggle to know whether that's the case.
This could become one of the big global players in the market. I do truly believe that.
It's just not worth the effort.
That's not a fair comment, I don't think. Who purchase 4 or 5 recipes at once?
Who does?
I mean, if you look at young families, there are sites.
Who has time to plan out what they're going to eat? Monday's lasagna, Tuesday, who does that?
There are families, lots of families do that.
Are there?
Yes.
I just don't see it. They're busy, they've got 2 kids or something like that. They want to come in, make a quick meal, get the kids bath, get them to bed.
I agree it's a complex business model, but 52% of people use online recipes, so there is a big market for it.
Are you smoking something?
That is an enormous software task. I think I asked myself this, why? For that reason, Nick, I'm gonna...
We'll miss that part. So, I grew up in Switzerland, came to the UK when I was 7, went to Aston University, did Enactus for 2 years. I then went to work at an investment bank, Deutsche Bank in Frankfurt. I was working on the 20th floor of a big glass building. I was working in shares. Obviously it gets very busy certain times of the year, it gets very, very quiet other times of the year. It was then I saw a business plan competition on Facebook. It was a little advert, and I clicked on it, and so I created a business plan while working at Deutsche Bank in the quiet season of the shares. And the business plan was to sell coffee to people with advertising on the side of the mug. The theory was when people drink a cup of coffee, they see an advert, they've just had some caffeine, they're really, really awake, they're usually on a break when they're drinking coffee, so it's a great time to advertise. Obviously the people who drink the coffee get cheaper coffee, high quality, because it's subsidised with advertising. The concept, and this is still what I came up with in the investment bank about 6 months after I'd done Enactus, was to sell it out of 4-metre tall giant coffee cups. We would manufacture these giant coffee cups, people would walk down the street, they would see one of these coffee cups and think, yep, that sells coffee, buy a cup of coffee from us and we'll make loads of money. In my final year, I started building this massive, great coffee cup out of fiberglass just down the road from my university. You can see this is one of the guys, you can see how big this thing was. I then went round, Aston University gave us a pitch to put our first outlet right in front of the university. So obviously what we were going to do is find advertisers who wanted to advertise to students. So we got the cup filled with adverts. I had no idea what I was doing. I was a student in my final year. Yes, I'd done Enactus, but really, I had no idea what I was doing. So when it came around to buying cups, I did a simple Google search, coffee cups, Alibaba comes up, purchase, the minimum order is 20,000, click yep. My student house, and basically HSBC had lent us all the money to do this, by the way, so it's jokes on HSBC. My doorbell rang. Someone said, "I've got delivery for Nick Holzherr." Yeah, that's me. Are you expecting something? Yeah, I am. I was expecting a box about this big. The guy proceeded to unload his lorry, and my student house was full of coffee cups for about a year after that. This was a shared house with other guys, and my flatmates were my best friends. But what I learned from that is actually there was massive hidden costs that I had not taken account of at all. It then came, the university giving us a pitch to advertise on, to sell coffee on, right from the Students' Guild. Freshers Week came along. Advertisers want to hit students, said we want to be there in Freshers Week. Freshers Week came, and our big coffee outlet hadn't arrived. The manufacturer of this thing said, it's there in 2 weeks, Nick, it's in 2 weeks. But we didn't have a choice, so we borrowed a table. We started selling coffee to people on the table. Advertising went well, and we were the most popular coffee table on campus. 6 months later, the unit still hadn't arrived. And we were selling on a table in the snow. We both turned down jobs from, I turned down a job from the investment bank. My business partner at the time, from PwC. And our friends were driving around in company cars and stuff, and we were idiots sat on a table in the snow. But I'm really, really pleased that we persevered with it, and it really was perseverance that was needed there. Because in January, the unit arrived when we really were a very, very popular outlet on campus, and we sold lots of coffee, and everything went well. Going forward a year, we used to put QR codes, 2D digital barcodes, onto the side of coffee cups to make the advertising more appealing. I then built a kind of whole business out of that, where people could basically scan business cards, load it up on their mobile phones, download all the contact details of their phone, look at social media. We had clients from around the world who were using this platform to big global companies to basically make their business cards more attractive and capture data from them. It was then when I sat in my office, I had a team of, I think, 5 people at that point, where a friend forwarded me the application for the apprentice, and it was literally 5 boxes, 20 words, really simple, late at night one night, filled it up with a load of rubbish that I made up on the spot, and they invited me to come to the session, to like a big assessment centre. I went along, I thought, maybe I'll meet someone from the apprentice. I kind of watched the show, and they said, right, I got through all the different other stages as well, and I was invited down to London and went through psychology assessments and all sorts of things to make sure I was sane enough to go on the show. Made a massive mistake. Finally, they offered me the contract. They said, Nick, come on to the show. And at this point, I was like, shit, I had no idea. I had not planned to go on The Apprentice at all. So I went to my mentor and a good friend of mine at the time and said to him, you know me quite well. What do you reckon? It's a big opportunity. I'll get loads of press. It could be really good for my business. Should I go? And he said, Nick, look, I know you don't go. You've got a posh accent. You're coming across like a twat. You're doing all right at the moment. Carry on trying. You'll do well on this. So then I went to our PR company and did exactly the same thing. Nick, you're coming across like a twat. Don't go on. We know PR. The media will hate you. Shit. I went to an investor of ours. And he said, Nick, actually, commercially, this is going to be great for you. So I went on the show, hoping that it was going to work out okay. But obviously, you're 100% aware that you can make a twat of yourself very, very quickly on the show. So what's The Apprentice like? I get asked a lot of time. It's totally out of your comfort zone. Every single task is very, very different to the last. You're usually in industries that you've got no idea about. And this one here, selling food was probably the one I was quite close to, but it's incredible what you do. The resources that they put behind every single project is incredible. You go from art selling to food selling to the most crazy stuff that you've never had any experience of, and the hours are ridiculously long. If you wake up at 6 a.m. with a boom mic over your bed in a dorm room, and they film you brushing your teeth all the way to sleeping, going back to bed at the end of the day. If you make one mistake, that's the part they're going to broadcast to 10 million people, including all your friends at home, all all your clients, and everything like that. But the resources that they put behind it are incredible. Apparently they spend about £1 million per episode making the show. So you go from, you will go back to the food task. We woke up in the morning, chose what kind of outlet we wanted, designed it on the train up to Edinburgh. We were on sort of CAD systems, designing what kind of food outlet we wanted. At about 10 p.m, we went to bed. The next morning at 6 a.m, the apprentice crew had basically flown in experts from around the world to come in and build this thing overnight for us, built a whole unit for us, and we were there selling in the centre of Edinburgh. So it is a massive amount of fun. It is a bit like doing kind of like a practical MBA in a very, very short period of time. It runs over about 8 weeks. And I said it is very tiring. You know, here Maria had no excuse really sleeping. I think it was week 2 or something like that. But all of us slept. You know, we every single moment you get a moment to sleep. The tasks run back to back. So as soon as one task is finished, the next one starts the next day. They run for about 3 days each task, and then you've got a day in the boardroom, and the next task starts again. So it is a very, very, very crazy experience. So we haven't got a question and answers thing here, so I thought I'd do a few frequently asked questions. First one is boardroom suitcases, are they empty or full? So a quick show of hands, and it is genuinely the most asked question. I don't know why. Hands up who thinks that the boardroom suitcases are full. It's a much better response than I usually get. It's probably because you're Enactus people. But yes, they are full. So what happens every night, before you go to the boardroom, you pack your little suitcase and you go to the boardroom. If you get fired, you leave with that suitcase. You have to live in a hotel out of that suitcase for about 48 hours, and you then go back when all the other people are out of the house and pick up the rest of your stuff. But you know, and some people get a bit cocky and they go, I'm not going to pack my suitcase, and we try and get them fired because that would be hilarious. The next question I get often is, do we really have 20 minutes to get ready? When the phone rings, you know, are you really in bed? Do you have 20 minutes? And the answer is yes. So you know, the people who often what happens is people who want to spend more time on how they look, especially wake up early. So they wake up, you know, maybe an hour before they reckon the task might start. So they're up at like 5, 6 a.m. start doing their makeup. They then run down and pick up the phone when it rings, and so you can always tell by people pick up the phone who are the main people on the show. But yeah, you do have about 20 minutes ready to get ready. We do obviously know we're the stars of the show. If you don't turn up, they're going to have to wait for us. So the next question is always like, what's Lord Sugar like? What's Nick and Karen like? Nick and Karen spend a lot of time. So we are almost every day with Nick and Karen. You know, Nick's quite a PR man. He knows he's trained in PR. He knows that his scowl and his smile is really famous. So you know, you're doing a big presentation to, you know, the head of eBay or whatever, and he's sitting there tutting away. And you're like, Nick, what's wrong? And you learn nothing's wrong. He's just doing that, so they've got the clip in case they need it for the TV show. Karen, really, really good. You know, she's really intelligent. Massive respect from her. After, you know, coming off the show, always understood every task very well and helped us along the way. Lord Sugar, we don't really see that much of it. So we literally walk into the boardroom, he chats with us for a little bit, we walk out of the boardroom, and that's pretty much all we see of Lord Sugar. You know, we never go around the back of the, you know, the sort of back of the scene or anything and have a cup of tea with him, or sort of chat about his dog. We literally just see what you guys see on TV. I'm sure, you know, you do see a little bit. He does have a very soft side, and you know, I know people who know him now, and they say he's actually a really nice guy. But we do see a very, very similar Lord Sugar to you, because we're not actors, and they have to make it quite real for us. They have to make the whole scenario seem like you see it on TV. So I got to the final. I didn't win, but I did get investment for Wisp, which is a company that I put forward to Lord Sugar. I got investment from angels and from venture capital groups, and we raised just over £500,000 after coming off the show. We've got a team of 20 people, and I built the system. And for people who can't remember what it was, it basically allows you to add lots of recipes to a shopping list, purchase them at any store. It gives you lots of clever little tips along the way. So, what have I learned? I think it's probably the most important thing about, you know, that hopefully you might get away with. How many of you guys here thinking of starting a business? Quite a few, that's good. The biggest thing I think I've learned is that your emotions running a company look something like this compared to the normal person. So a normal person, and I said somebody who doesn't run a business, is a line in the middle, kind of the yellow line. The business person is the blue line. So, you know, the yellow line, the normal person, you leave university, you feel quite good about yourself, you realise the job's not quite what you thought, then you get a company car, and then you get a mortgage, and you feel good about yourself, and something, you know, you kind of hover in the middle. As an entrepreneur, I think it's probably what I felt. I left thinking, I'm brilliant, I'll set a company up. Then, literally, a month later, I felt so low, thinking I've just given up my job, or my potential job, and I am stuck here with spent about £40,000 setting up the coffee company. I'm sat here with £40,000 debt, sat on a table with a coffee machine, selling coffee. And obviously when you get your first client, you feel fantastic, and then you realise they're not going to pay you for 60 days, and you feel shit again. It is just an emotional roller coaster. I think what I've learned personally, and people have told me this all the way through university and working and everything, but it took a while to actually really learn it, is that focus is really, really important. So focus on a few things, or one thing ideally, and do it really, really well. A guy, and I recommend his book, Scott Belsky, talks about the Project Plateau. Basically, if you look at this side here, it's energy and excitement of a project. You start a project, you feel really, really excited. Suddenly you realize actually you have to do a lot of work to get there. And then your excitement and energy goes down and down and down until you get a new idea, and you go, that's brilliant, I'll do that one. And then you have loads of energy again, and basically what ends up happening, you have loads of different half-finished ideas. And what he says, what you should do, and this is based on loads and loads of research, and I think it works, is if you carry on in that kind of low part of the project, where it's actually quite boring to get stuff done, that project pattern goes up again, the excitement goes up as the business or as the project becomes more exciting, and you do really, really well, and that's how you have success. So it's about perseverance in that kind of low part. And I think that definitely, I think that reflects what happened to me as well. I think it's really, really important to do in a side project or in a business. Sorry, Enactus project. I will that. The next thing is to be execution focused. Everyone has got hundreds of ideas. And everyone's got an idea of a business that they think would be a good idea. But actually doing it and executing it is probably the most important thing. Focus on actually being on results, not just on speaking about stuff. Again, something that's really relevant. I think all this stuff is relevant to Enactus and to running your own business. And the most important thing, I think, is initiative. I haven't learned anything different to anybody else. I think when I employ someone, I basically look, have they got a lot of initiative or not? I think that's what Enactus is great on, is kind of developing the soft skills, which are, in my view, sort of initiative. So I think it's about thinking of solutions for things independently, about not being told by someone else. I think basically it's just common sense. So anybody can run a business, it's not very difficult. I think branding yourself is really, really important. I think that's probably one thing I have done quite well in all my businesses, is think about what does it look visually, and what's the brand behind it? How are we communicating it to people? I think both in the presentation as well as in a business or in a side group, is how you actually present what you do, how you present yourself. I think is really, really important. If you have got an idea to yourself, like a business idea, and you're not sharing it with other people, tell everyone. I think it's really, A, people will hold you to account to actually go and do it. B, you'll probably get loads of really, really useful feedback, whether that's from your friends, or from your family, or from an expert, someone you respect in the industry maybe. If you've got a business idea, I think really, really important, something that I didn't do very well at the start, was listen. So actually listen to what people say back to you and implement it. And I think the people who do that well, or are just geniuses. And I don't think many people are just geniuses, so it is about listening, and the ones who are successful. Finally, my final point is personal development. I think a lot of people rely on other people to kind of help them get on in their jobs, or at university, or anywhere. And now I think what I'd say to everyone is, I'll say this to our employees as well, is do your own personal development. Decide what you think you want to learn about more, what you want to do well at, and read yourself, write your own blog, watch TED Talks, whatever it makes that whatever kind of industry you're actually genuinely interested in, do your own personal development. I think the people that do are the people that become successful. Finally, I'm going to leave you with a quote from Steve Jobs. He said, "Everything around you that you call life was made up by people that are no smarter than you." And I think that's really, really true. It is just common sense, being execution focused, all the stuff I've just mentioned there. Anybody can create anything they want, just about doing it. So thank you very much, guys.